Welcome here to the Gamut Project. I have Tommy and Tom with me again, all the way from Bristol. These two dapping young lads are killing it. They are getting leaner by every single call we have. I mean, God, if your jawline got any sharper, you'd be able to shave my face with that chin of yours, Tom. My God, that is a prominent, strong jawline. It's good. I had a chin, man. You got a good chin. Awesome. Guys, we're going to talk about intensities, proprioception, load, exercise selection. We're leading up to competition prep. All right. So, Tommy, where would you like to start?
Okay. So, obviously, I've prepped once before, and it was straight into 5-day split, cardio, chuck straight in, just basically train balls to the wall. And hope for the best as such. I had somebody help me with food and macronutrients and stuff, which I probably didn't need help with, but it was more somebody just to be accountable to. But what can you suggest? I mean, obviously we're going through a reset phase at the moment. Where are we going to start in terms of intensity for the next phase?
All right. So this is a very good question. I think a lot of people have a mapped out strategy or plan. Like, say, for example, they'll say 3 weeks, we're going to do a higher intensity 4 times a week session. Then for the next 6 weeks, we're going to do a high amount of volume, twice a day training, so on and so forth. And then there's steady state cardio, there's high intensity interval training. And like, hopefully, at the end of it, we're competition ready. And we pray, please God, let our effort come to us in the right way. So we don't do that. You don't do that at all right? At the moment, we're going through a detox. You guys are training 2 hours, a training week right now, okay? You're both, Tommy, you're over 30, right?
No, 29. I'll be 30 in March. Yeah, I look over 30, but not quite.
I kind of need that. I just wanted to stab that one. so I remember when I was turning 30, it was such a big thing, and then I turned 30, I'm like, fuck, sorry. But you're 30 now, 32, 40 group, all right? And Tom, you're still in your 20s, right?
24.
You're in your early 20s, 24?
24.
Okay, so the amount of volume, prescription, and I must remember this is going to change in accordance to how your biology responds, all right? But to start off with, we need a plan, okay? So you guys aren't going to be on the same type of training volume to start with because you have different variables, you have different ages, as well as different metabolisms entirely. The way you look is completely different to the way Tom looks. Tom is more of a natural ectomorph, whereas you're more of a natural mesomorph in nature, right? So you have a little bit more body fat, a little more muscle. Tom's very lean, also very athletically built, but not as dense as you are. So these things have to be taken into account. Now, the first stage for you, Tommy, we're going to do a total of 3 hours. Sorry, 3.5. 3 hours is one above you. 3.5 hours a week of total weight training volume. Now, just remember, your sessions at the moment are only half an hour long. So you can imagine you're doing 2 hours a week at the moment. So it's almost double. All right. So people's like, 3.5 hours, no problem. That's easy comp prep. Yeah, if you're messing around talking to the hot blonde next to you on the treadmill, then that's pretty easy. But when you're grafting and getting into the grind and sustaining those tempos, it can be challenging. So 3.5 hours, and the intensity variable behind administration of those hours is going to be completely dependent on your markers every day. All right. So when your markers are performing at a great capacity, you're optimal, you're not too parasympathetic, you're not too sympathetic, then you have like an old school bodybuilder split to start off with. You'll start with 4 sets of 6, going into 3 sets of 8 to 10, going into 3 sets of 10 to 12, finishing off with a bit of a pump. Is an optimal. Whereas if you're more parasympathetic, you may opt for a lower volume, greater intensity, and longer rest. And if you're sympathetic, you do the opposite of that. Short bursts, very short bursts of activity. So you may not have a 40-minute session. You may only have like a 28-minute session. And the loads will be extremely low, and it would just be to re-engage movement and to stretch into the angles of movement. So that kind of be what you're doing now. All right. For you, it's going to be 4 hours. So you have half an hour extra weights per week. Okay. Now, for every active ratio, there needs to be a recovery ratio. So in a week, you need to hit only an hour of recovery work, that being stretching. And for you, Tommy, you need to hit an hour and a half. All right. So the total time for you both is going to be 5 hours of work time a week. It just depends on how it's split up because of your age groups and your plan. But like I said, this is just the base plan. So if I see, for example, you're recovering really well, your heart rate variability is not being dramatically influenced by the training session, I may up it. If I see it is, and you're not recovering optimally, I may reduce it. Okay. So remember, it's not about the effort, it's about how well you can adapt to the effort. If the effort is just excessively high, then there's no point because you're not going to recover.
No, yeah.
So that's what we're going to start off with. As we progress and as you become more skilled at recovering better, and because obviously now we set you up in a state of having better nutrient assimilation. And now that you have better nutrient assimilation, now we're going to increase the nutrient factors. In other words, you're going to go off of having a predominantly high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. You're going to have more carbohydrates because your activity levels are going to go up as well, which means we need more of an insulin reaction for anabolism to occur. Right? And although fats can also still create insulin reactions in your body, without a doubt, particularly in medium-chain triglycerides, it still doesn't equate to as dramatic in real life terms as to how carbohydrates can grow muscle. The right source of carbohydrates, the right time, the right quantity. So the diet's going to change, and so is your training in the beginning. Going from a state of getting the gut back to a bacterial and neutral balance to now a state of nutrient assimilation and increasing your tolerance to the volume of macronutrients you can handle without negatively impacting your fasting glucose in the morning and your heart rate variability in the morning as well.
Cool. That sounds good.
Yeah. Cool. So to you, that sounds like a simple plan, but yeah, I've never really thought about it.
It's not a simple plan. No, believe me, it's a lot of work on my end. It's a lot of work on my end. It's like every day I'm like, God, I gotta look at more numbers. I feel more like a mathematician than a trainer because all the variables have to be so precise. Because I mean, they're not ever going to be 100% precise because your biology is always constantly changing. But I got to take into account what the information is and create a new updated plan to the changes and what your biology is saying to me. But then again, like the growth rate is crazy. I've been doing it now since I got back in South Africa. In the first month, I was just getting my head right, what have you, but I've been training properly from October. And my lifts, I'm lifting, I don't go heavy because I just don't want to strain. I had a lot of strain to my connective tissue from bad lifting when I was younger. So I don't lift heavy all the time. But when I do lift heavy, like for me, it's heavy anyway, because I'm not really great at the squat. I've never been good at a squat. Awful. If anybody that knows me, they'll say I'm the worst squatter they've ever seen. But for struggling for a while, and I did 180 for 8 reps on the back squat 6 weeks ago. And it felt fluid. Whereas before I would grind to get it out. So it does work, and you get leaner without having to exude as much restriction to your life or to your diet. But it's a question of it's an ongoing process. It's not a defined plan saying, we have a plan, but it's not defined. Definitely not. There's room for change. There has to be. Otherwise, you just may as well get a Flex magazine, take out a section of competition preparation and follow that template program. You shouldn't spend money on a coach. So it's my job as your guys' coach. Every day I look at your variables. And some days I say to you guys, don't train stretch, as an example, or cut back on your protein, up your fats. There's a reason why I'm saying that. It comes from a compounded hypothesis that I developed behind the practical experience as well as a lot of theoretical knowledge that I'm always delving into, which is sometimes why I'm a bit of a mad scientist. But that's a process. It's not going to, we'll have a start point. The start point is you're going to have 3.5, you're going to have 4 hours of weight training, an hour and a half of stretching, an hour of stretching a week. And then as we go along, we may start to introduce high intensity interval training in the morning if your HRV is well adapted to the muscle breakdown through the weight training. We may take it out when it becomes, if we have a negative return from it. You may not do it every day. You may only do it on some days. Depends on the outcome of the HRV too. We may incorporate steady state cardio on the days where your HRV is slightly more elevated where it should be, just try and still warrant the calorie output without the excessive amount of dramatic cortisol impact on the body. Although steady state cardio done for too long a period of time has even more of a detriment to cortisol. Done for 20 minutes of very low intensity after weight training, that helps you mobilize fat, helps increase circulation of the training, and helps you recover. So everything comes with a balance. So when someone's like, a lot of coaches out there, world famous coaches say, cardio is bad for you, it causes all this oxidative stress, makes you prematurely age, your brain's snap. Take a look at pinch of salt, because it depends on the scenario and the quantity. Right? So for me, steady state cardio is 20 minutes. Like, I'm doing cardio continually for 20 minutes. That's a long time, right? Like I'm not a runner, and I can't see myself going for 3-hour hikes. I go on the golf course and hit a few golf balls for 3 or 4 hours, but let's face it, you don't get many golfers with a six-pack, all right? I think maybe Tiger Woods had one stage, but we all know why he let go of that. He should actually enhanced it, considering his other extramural activities to show more of a six-pack. But anyway, he probably wasn't doing it right. But steady state cardio is relative to how dramatic it can. Like if you're going out for a marathon or even a half marathon, unless you really love it, like if anything done with passion, I can respect. But anything done for the sake of doing it for a purpose that you think is going to give you, and it doesn't. Like how many people think to lose weight, you got to go running? Still to this day, all right? If you want to lose muscle, you got to go running. Yeah, if you want to really lose a lot of muscle, you can go running. I mean, I'm not talking about like 5K run. 5K runs are cool, you know? I mean, even some people with a low body weight can run up to 10Ks and be fine. If you're 100, I'm 120 kilos. I run 10Ks. It's like literally taking a baseball bat, smashing your knees up, and hoping I'm going to be ready for my leg session the next day. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So it's all relative. It's not to say steady state cardio is bad. It's not to say high intensity interval training is the golden standard. It's also, everything needs to have a positive adaptation. If you can't create a positive adaptation to your training or to the diet, for that matter, it has to be changed. So I don't have the answers for you guys, unfortunately. I can't tell you, this is what you're going to do for the next 6 months, and at the end of those 6 months, I know for a fact you're going to be in the best possible shape of your life. I know for a fact that with working with me in 6 months, you're going to have the least amount of inflammation, best amount of circulation, probably the best range of motion you've ever had, and most amount of proprioception development, because I take into account what your body's telling me. Whether or not that's the best state you'll ever be in, my God, I don't have any crystal balls here. I'm not a tarot card reader. I'm a trainer that understands a little bit about biochemistry and movement. What I am promising you guys is that you will have a lot more of appreciation to your body because you become more aware of it. And the reason why you become more aware of it is because you're going to be a hell of a lot less stressed in this process going into competition preparation than you've ever done before.
I already in 3 weeks feel the best I've ever felt.
You guys look fresh as daisies, man. I'll tell you what, you make me feel old. I look at your screen and I look over here. I'm like, my God, I look like their uncle.
Not at all.
No, I'm just saying that. I'll give you a discount anyway, Tommy. Don't worry. So that's where we start out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sounds good.
Completely. Yeah.
Okay. Now, exercise selection. Let's delve a little bit deeper into the subject.
Yeah.
Squats are the only way to build big legs. How many times have you guys heard that?
Many times, yeah.
Right? If you want to be big, you got to do the big compounds. Right? Deadlift. Squat. Sure, I agree, you will definitely build dense muscle, but when you're a bodybuilder or a fitness model and you have tissue that becomes excessively toned or hypertonic due to a higher volume of training, let's consider comparing a power lifter to a bodybuilder. What's the defining difference between their training regimes? The one big factor that stands out, not talking about intention or contraction, all that other stuff. One biggest defining difference between a powerlifter's training regime and a bodybuilder's training regime.
Length of session.
The intensity of it.
Intensity, length of session.
Opposite volume. The volume of training. The intensity is definitely higher in a powerlifter to a bodybuilder, so that's definitely fine. But the biggest defining factor to take into account when it comes to hypertonicity is the volume. A bodybuilder or a fitness model will train in a whole diverse multitude of angles to encourage muscle growth through a three-dimensional element. Whereas a powerlifter wants to increase gross strength to be able to lift a weight from point A to point B, regardless of how it makes them look. Right? So you have a lot more compensation occurring in a powerlifting training regime. However, there's a lot more recovery too. Okay. If you look at the actual time under tension of a powerlifter's training regime as opposed to a bodybuilder's training regime, it's far less. I would be surprised if it was over 200 seconds in a workout of actual time under tension. Not standing in a gym, reading a newspaper for 5 minutes and then doing another single. Time under tension. Right? So the more you expose your body to time under tension, the more the compensatory patterns are going to be persistent into your synergistic dominant factor or reciprocal inhibition. All right? Now, taking those into account, if we have a state of reciprocal inhibition and we try to do a squat, are we likely to drive more force into our knees or into our hips during the eccentric phase of the movement? So our hip flexors are tight.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right? So if we think about the common reciprocal inhibition being tight hip flexors inhibiting the gluteals or part of the gluteals in any case, not the entire glute, we try to get a muscle that's tight, can't expand, can't really fully contract. It's kind of like in limbo of tension. Yeah. So when we're trying to go into the hip with the muscles tight, it doesn't allow us to go into the hip. So when you're trying to go like this with the hip, and so the knee goes like this, and then the hip goes like that. If the hip can't go here, what happens? Goes all into the knee. Do we want to do squats when we have a state of sympathetic, dominant heart rate variability? Do we want to do squats when we have elevated blood sugar? Why? Because what does squats tell us? Squats tell us that our bodies are, not squats, heart rate variability and blood sugar tell us that our body is in a state of excessive excitation, which will have an impact on our kinesiology.
Yeah, so loading a bar on your
It's good when you said that then, and the difference in rest period as well is big, because I was training this morning and there was a massive power lifter. There was the lad who trained the thing at Nicole, mixed race guy, and he I think I did the arm workouts there. I think I did A1, A2, A3, the 3 sets of all that before in his whole rest period.
Exactly. So the volume was lower, but the volume was much higher. Now, high intensity training can activate more satellite cells and everything else, but volume training is going to shuttle a lot more amino acids and also a lot more lactic acid itself. So you create a more of an acidic environment, which causes the body to go through a process of adaptation to lowering acidity, reducing inflammation by repairing the tissue first and getting bigger. The best programs for hypertrophy are committed between an intensity variable, in my opinion, between 60 and 75% of intensity maximum.
Okay.
Some people say up to 85. I don't believe that. I think if you want to sustain continual activity, so if you go to 85% max, you should do that possibly 2 times out of a year. you go for, if you're a bodybuilder. I'm not saying that, you can't go for your singles every once in a while, but I'm saying if you are really engrossed in bodybuilding and you want to grow muscle, going for higher intensities consistently and regularly throughout the year is just not going to do the trick. You're setting yourself up for a lot of strain with a high amount of volume. If you have a lot of strain going into the body, you need a lot more rest, a hell of a lot more rest. Right. It's also a reason why, bodybuilders take anabolics, sure. A lot of them do, not all of them, but some of them do. But powerlifters take a hell of a lot. A hell of a lot more. And the reason for that is because they're trying to keep up the consistency or the regularity of their training. Because they're training with huge loads, huge. These loads that would make my spine cry blood. Literally, I wouldn't be able to keep up with a powerlifter. It's my size. A powerlifter that looked like me would outlift me at the blink of an eye. Because I'm not conditioned to lift like that. And I've never trained toward lifting. I had one stage in my life, and then I've been taught everything. I stopped doing it. I have a lot of respect for powerlifters. It's a hard sport, tough sport. I'm not cut out for it. My body wasn't cut out for it. I tried it for a while. It was fun. The ego definitely went from here to here, but not for me. That's why I prefer bodybuilding. It just gives me a bit more of a balance in my body. Sorry, guys. Just one moment. Cool. So, yeah, it's a great deal of volume that goes into bodybuilding in comparison to powerlifting. And the reason for that is for hypertrophy. Right? So in order for hypertrophy to occur in multiple angles, powerlifters have a gross deal of muscle mass, but a powerlifter is aesthetically, if you're talking about aesthetics now, is nowhere near as balanced as a bodybuilder because they don't train the minute angles, they train the gross angles. So this has to be taken into account in terms of how well you're going to be able to recover, as what intensity you should be lifting at towards maximal recovery, and inevitably the best possible adaptation.
So when we're talking kind of exercise selection, then obviously for Tom and I, our mechanics are totally different. So squatting, I find quite comfortable. I've got an issue with my left ankle in terms of I broke it when I was about 14 years old. As soon as they put a cast on me, I could run around and carry on playing football. So the grow back of that bone has now limited my left ankle. It's only slight, but you can see it. As soon as I hit a certain depth on a squat, I just shift straight into the right-hand side where my knee can carry on going past, my ankle can carry on.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there, Tommy. It's very important that you guys understand and appreciate the concept of active range of motion. I put a post up of me squatting a few weeks back, actually might have been 2 months ago. And some guy says, it's not a full range of motion. This guy doesn't know that I have only 2/3 of my lat attached to my body. So 1/3, a chunk of my lat like that was chopped out of my body when my lung collapsed. Okay, so, all right, you guys there?